Consortium of Doctors and the African American Monument Association here in Savannah, Georgia, to come together, collaborate, and make this monument a reality. It took 11 years, and there were 2 years just to get the words of Dr. Maya Angelou approved because of the wording. If you read the wording, it's quite blatant, and it lets you know that it's very about the reality of what he went through as a people. And it came through with some joy and some pride. So if you would remember that, the resilience factor is so important for us as a people, and the strength of character. So that monument means a lot, and that's why we're taking that on to move forward with our purpose, which is about the African American family and its plight in this United States. And all over the world, actually, people of African descent have to fight for their, you might say, equity, justice, and equality everywhere in the world. So it's not easy to deal with if you don't have resilience and strength of character and the ability to endure. So that's why we're here. At this moment, we'll be blessed with some outstanding work of Dr. Bias-Insignares. She is the co-director, and I'm the outgoing director. She will present you some of her poetry. She is the poet laureate of Davidson County and Tennessee. She's been doing this work for years. She writes for a living, and she's helping us to write a book about ourselves. Dr. Bias-Insignares, from the very first class that Dr. Jordan brought in Atlanta 20 years ago. It's now going on the 21st year.
And you don't have to add that to my age. Good evening, everyone. It is always a pleasure to be at this particular meeting where we are bringing in new members to join our sisterhood. And a part of that is captured in a poem that is the official poem of the Consortium of Doctors. The poem, in this case, as we celebrate the statute, has a twofold meaning. It gives the perception and perspective of African American women and their journey over the travails and the tribulations that they suffer, with the hope that they would see a brighter day and that somehow doors would open for opportunity. So I will read that poem, and then it will be followed by a poem that captures more broadly what the statute means. This one is entitled Daughters of Destiny. Dreamers rise from deep repose, long before each dreamer knows that reality and hope have joined to sow mustard seeds of faith. The morning sun shines its light on the innate promise of unbridled minds as reapers sample the first fruits to harvest new dreams in each season. But some dreams, like perennials, endure. Take dominion in the hearts of kindred spirits and find rebirth in union as the daughters of destiny. They extract layers of knowledge from the arid soil of struggle, only to reveal questions among tangled roots, relenting the broken earth above the troubling roots. What must daughters do to travel in forbidden fields? Where are the Tubmans, C.J. Walkers, and Sojourners? Who'll give helping hands and kind shoulders for tears? Why are doors closed and glass ceilings hung so low? In search of a future despite fallow ground, cluttered with trenches and stumbling blocks, Daughters of destiny forge their own path to reclaim the foremother's sequestered legacy. Yet God's plan must flower, and His will must be done according to His purpose for good to work in love. So in prayer and persistence, daughters reap His blessings, then bequeath their destiny to daughters for generations to come. And our inductees find a special meaning in that in regard to their induction ceremony, because they are the daughters of destiny. This one is entitled Catharsis, and I was inspired to write this. I really do believe that it was God's plan for me to write it, because it woke me up about 4 or 5 o'clock each morning and insisted on being written. I did not want to write this poem because it made me reflect too much on many things that were troubling in this country that I had endured in coming through segregation and Jim Crow and all of those things that really reflected the times and the evolution of where we are today. But I had to write it, and once it was captured, I was proud to call it catharsis, because that is what I felt. I felt as if I had been liberated. It was also inspired by the election of President Barack Obama. When I saw that crowd in Grant Park with all those people from so many different ethnicities, all standing there together in brotherly love, all holding on to each other, tears streaming, and the pictures of different countries where people were dancing in the streets celebrating our election. It was not even their election, yet they were celebrating and they were happy for us that we had arrived in this country to an understanding that all men are in fact created equal.
Yes.
Poetry is catharsis. I knew what to expect. The usual victory speech. Cheers, toasts, and chants. High fives, hugs, and dance. Yet, this time, it took my breath away. A sight to behold. Flashing vistas of a world transfixed in the moment, when hope strolled into the spotlight to reclaim the people's authority to form a more perfect unity, embrace diversity from London to Nairobi, Paris to Beijing, New York to Jakarta, and beyond. America reborn in the power of the vote to slay that triple-headed demon spewing prejudice, racism, and hate, fueled by its minions, class warfare, fear-mongering, and race bait. A world paused from flight, guns hushed, enemies waving olive branches, strangers sharing shoulders as tears streamed down each smiling face to form pathways to peace along petulant roads where the clash of ideologies once littered the way. It was a glimpse of all we could be, of visionary leadership and how it could prevail in the political will to obey. Only our better angels are a reflection of God's image, that divine example in which we all are made. And all I could do was scream a primal wail from the pit of my soul that broke the chains, 400 years of bondage, expelled in the release, a cry to free the ancestors tethered together in the squalor excrement, menses, and afterbirth, enslaved ships bound for harbors where cotton was king. A cry to free every black man stripped of his name, his manhood, his woman, and his progeny, for a master's profit margin of human inventory, yet boiled in oil for the neglected mistress who took her pleasure with the bondsman because master was too busy finding his on Slave Row. A cry to free the black woman, forced to bear children without blessing of marriage and holy sacrament, only to feel them ripped from her breast to become commodities on the auction block, hauled away on wagons with corn and hay, never to be seen again. Motherhood lost to the labors of wet nurse. A cry to free black children, risking the lash just to learn how to read and write, and the courage of Frederick Douglass, who got it done, through wit and genius to become the intellectual, the philosopher, the North Star advocate for the disenfranchised and the unsung. A cry to free Billy's strange fruit, dangling from southern trees. Black men lynched for entertainment on the town square. 14-year-old Emmett Till rolled in barbed wire and plunged into the river for a whistle and a smile. With tears burning tracks down my cheeks, I cried for the black men of Tuskegee, trapped like lab rats in the federal syphilis project, unwitting victims of domestic terrorism, by a government pledged to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And through the unrelenting tears of comforting vision arose, wounded souls rising from their restless graves to find peace and shed their shackles on this defining day. Poor Alabama girls dusted bomb fragments from their Sunday dresses, finished the Bible lesson, then walked into the light to make their way home. Closing the last file for voter registration, Viola Liuzzo heaved a sigh of satisfaction as she realized her job was done, and despite bloodshed and tyranny, in the final analysis, she had won. Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney, vindicated in their sacrifice, saw Fannie Lou Hamer touch her face to find it restored, so she could move on to greater causes because she no longer had to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. In the distance, I can see the growing throng gathering from east, west, north, and south. Martin King, Medgar Evers, the Kennedy brothers, Robert and John, Coretta Scott King, Betty Shabazz, and James Byrd, who just needed a ride home. Along comes Nat Turner, the rebel with a cause, charged with Harriet Tubman, that great trail boss. And Sojourner Truth, preaching, Ain't I a Woman? To amens from Mary Bethune and Marian Anderson, and gallantry from Jesse Owens and Jackie Robinson. The ranks swell with troops taking the hill. Colonel Robert Gould Shaw with the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, waving Sergeant William Carney's Medal of Honor that set military precedent. Men of courage and glory, the unit lives on in legend and story. Yes, they're all there, ancestors on whose shoulders President Obama must stand. Spirits reveling in the experiment called the USA, land of hope, promise, and faith in a better day. America, where all men are created equal, endowed with certain inalienable rights to pursue happiness and the fullness of life. In the reveille of redemptive catharsis comes the revelation of one exquisite fact. America is free.
Mayor Bias-Insignares gave this same catharsis to us in Oakland, California. It was so moving. It just spoke to our hearts. And I think a standing ovation is always needed for this when she delivers. She is so dynamic. I'd like to introduce our head table. We have for us the most illustrious mayor who was with us when we met here in 2010. The family focus was with the money at that time also, because that is one of the things that we wanted to continue. And we had a delight and pleasure of her giving us readings. And I'd like to introduce, she is the lady sitting right here, Mayor Edna Jackson. Touched our hearts when she quoted our poem about who we are, Sisters All Are We, Consortium COD. She did it so beautifully. She found it on the website. And on this side of our table, we have Dr. Insignares and her husband, Mr. Insignares. And right next to him is our planning chair, the wonderful, outstanding leader who does everything. She gets it done. Her name is Attorney Carolyn Babel Thomas. If you've ever heard the expression, nothing is impossible with her, it fits her to a T. Nothing is impossible. She makes the impossible possible. I'd like to bring to you the Honorable Mayor Edna Jackson of Savannah, Georgia.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. This is really a pleasure, and Dr. Kevin, you reminded me that in 2010 I was here, and at that time I was the Mayor Pro Tem. And look where I am today. Honor to Dr. Abby Jordan. And I'm sure that all of you know that if there is anyone that can move mountains, she is the kind of person. But the one thing about Dr. Jordan is whatever she does it unconditionally and not for the glory that it can bring. And of course, the African American Monument is something that I sort of fight for long before I became a member of the City Council, and continued when I got there, because I was there when they were dealing with work. But Dr. Jordan had her way, and it was great. You don't change word. But I can tell you what you have done as the Consortium of Doctors. Set an example of what people can do to give back to a community, particularly a community where you don't live. But you wanted to make sure that the wishes of your founder was carried out. This monument here in our city is one of, I believe it is the most visited monument. When you see the billions of people that come into our city every year, then you know if there are a lot of tourists, they will see the monument. We're very proud of it. We try and keep it clean around it as much as possible. But people use it for the purpose that it was put there, to sit and to watch and to read and have their gatherings. The artists use it to display their various artwork. So that is what it is all about. So we just want to welcome you again to this city. We are the oldest city in Georgia. We're probably the most diverse city in this community. On city council, we're a council of 9, including the mayor and 8 aldermen. And I can say to you, out of the 9, 6 are African Americans. Right. I remember when there were none. And throughout the city to make sure that that in our community, the African American wishes are heard. I am the one now that is carrying that message, but not only for African Americans, but to make sure that the quality of life here in this community can be enjoyed by all. If we can get past the recession and bring more jobs in this community, then I can say we're really on a move. But the journey will always continue, and that is where you come in, because you have helped us to remember from whence we have come. Now we're taking it to another level. You have taken this organization higher and higher and higher. And I am always excited when I see the people that you are inducting into your organization, particularly the young people, because you see, we're getting old. I know I am. And we must push our young people to be where we are today and to help them get where they want to be. Continue your effort. Continue all the good things that you're doing all over this world. But let us not forget about the city of Savannah, because we are the hostess city of the South. Thank you again for coming. And I hope to see you again in 4 years. Hopefully, I'll still be the mayor of
We are so pleased that the Reverend Scotty Sweeney is with us tonight. We're going to be going to his church in the morning, and while he's coming to the podium to give us invocation so that we may keep the meal that is here for us this evening, I just wanted to say that we're looking forward to St. Philip A.M. Church and the 8 a.m. service, and hopefully some of you will come to church with us. Reverend Sweeney will tell you maybe just a word or two and give us the invitation. Thank you so much, Reverend Sweeney.
Let the church say amen. Amen. First of all, the land is delighted to be with you tonight, and also look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for our early morning service. I know that you have been a blessing to Savannah, and I know you will be a blessing to us tomorrow. Let us pray. Eternal and everlasting God, we thank you for this day. And we thank you for this organization. We thank you for their sense of sisterhood, their sense of professionalism, their desire for noble ideas to make this world a better place. We know that life is richer and life is better because of the ministry and the work of these sisters. Strengthen them, bless them, bless this meeting, bless this fellowship, bless this food, and we will forever give you the praise. Amen.
Our planning chair, outstanding to work with. Her name is Attorney Carolyn Battle Thomas. She was with us, and she has persuaded us to go to Chicago next year. Yeah. So we're looking forward to it. We're going to Chicago. So we can't speak to everybody. Well, let's see. The membership chair is Dr. Stills and Carrie Wilson. At this point, okay, I know what Dr. Harris is saying. Yes, Attorney Battle Thomas will come now and induct the new members of this group. This is called the Banquet of Doctors Banquet, and they're conducted here at this time. And Dr. Insignares and I will help down on the floor, along with Dr. Abigail Jordan, who is right here in this beautiful hat.
Good evening. This is such a wonderful part of our weekend each year. This year has been different because this year usually we get together on Thursday and on Saturday night we induct the inductees, but between Thursday and Saturday evening they sit and watch because they are not members yet. And this year, just wisdom of Dr. Insignares and an induction ceremony that she planned. We inducted them on Thursday at our very first meeting. So we can tell you firsthand after spending the weekend with them that we have superstars that are coming to our organization this year. I am so pleased to be the person who gets to tell you about the 6 dynamic women who make up the class of 2012. Dr. Brenda Vincent Cross. Would you please come forward? Dr. Cross has a bachelor's. Finish the induction. I want you to stand while I finish reading, because I want people to see and hear the amazing accomplishments. She holds a bachelor's degree in French from Talladega College, master's degree in counseling from Longwood College, and a PhD in counseling from the Union Institute. She was featured in the 1990 PBS production, Making Sense of the 60s. She's co-authored an article in the Futurist magazine, is a writer for the Virginia United Methodist Advocate, and author of an upcoming new book, Dare to Be Yourself, No Matter the Price. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, United Methodist Local Pastors, and Women for Obama. She has spent the last 23 years providing motivational, professional, and personal growth, educational advocacy, counseling, and support to women, preteens, teenagers, young adults, and more recently, senior citizens. And she was nominated by her sister, Dr. Regina Vincent Clark, from the class of 2010. Dr. Brenda Vincent Cross. Dr. Lucille Hilliard. Dr. Hilliard completed a Bachelor of Arts degree in Humanities and English from Catholic University, graduating cum laude. She received her Master's of Arts in Public Communication from American University, a Master's of Divinity degree from Howard University School of Divinity, and a Doctorate of Ministry from Howard University School of Divinity. This spring, Dr. Hilliard completed the Executive Certificate Program in Nonprofit Management at Georgetown University. She has written several short stories, has a host of copyrighted songs and poems in the Library of Congress. She's performed at the Apollo Theater. She wrote her dissertation, Strengthening Widows and Widowers in the Church. She loves learning, and that's how I met her. I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege. We were in class at Georgetown together this spring, and on the very first day we met, and on the very first day I recognized what a treasure she was. And I think on the very first day I wrote her nomination letter. She enjoys being a servant, a teacher, a motivator, and she and her son, who is a Morehouse man, co-founded Growing On Inc., where she serves as executive director. It's a nonprofit organization established in 2005 to foster growth in youth. And I did have the privilege of nominating Dr. Hilliard. Not present this evening is Dr. Charlotte Lee, who received her BA from Fisk University in biology, where she was president of the student body from 65 to 66. She received her medical degree from Indiana University with a specialty in internal medicine. She is a physician specializing in internal medicine and cardiology, was in private practice in the Minneapolis area, and she currently serves as the medical director at National Life Insurance Company. And she was nominated by Dr. Linda Gill from the class of 2011. Dr. Althea Holmes Masterson. Dr. Masterson received her BS from Allen University in elementary education, her master's from the University of Michigan in elementary education, and a PhD in educational administration from the University of Michigan. She has spent a lifetime educating children. She's taught school at the elementary level, served as principal of the Stewart Elementary School for 15 years in Detroit before she retired in 2000. She is the immediate past president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women in Detroit, the Detroit chapter. She's been very active with the University of Michigan Alumni Council, past president of the Detroit Association of University of Michigan Women, and she's also active with the Allen University Alumni, Delta Sigma Theta, and her church, the Outer Drive Faith Presbyterian Church. She's a member of Phi Lambda Theta, Phi Delta Kappa, and she represented Detroit in an article on majority Black cities in the June 1998 Essence magazine. She was nominated by Dr. Fannie Kicklin, class of 2010. Dr. Kenya Lenore Messer received a BS in psychology from Union College in New York, a master's degree in counseling and student personnel administration from Columbia University, and a doctorate with a concentration in higher education administration, also from Columbia University in New York. She has studied in Athens, Rome, and was selected as one of 8 scholars to represent Columbia University as part of the US-UK exchange program at the University of London. When I received her nomination, she was an educational consultant with Vladimir Education, Inc. in Washington, D.C. She had previously held positions of Vice President, Division of Student Development and Enrollment Management at Wilberforce. She had several positions at Columbia University, which culminated with the position of Associate Dean of Student Affairs. She's participated in numerous research projects, the most recent as Principal Investigator at Wilberforce University National Minority Male Health Project, which was sponsored by the U.S. Office of Minority Health. On August 6th, she will begin a new position at the University of Pennsylvania as the Director of Parent Outreach and Development. She is a contributing author to the book African American Men in College, published by Cossie Bass. She's published numerous articles and is presented at conferences all over the world. She's on the board of directors of Urban Sisters, Global Sisters New York, the UNCF Institute for Capacity Building, and a member of several national and international organizations. She was nominated by Dr. Sylvia Carey Butler, class of 2010, and she added, when I asked what else I wanted to add, that she is a faithful member of Phillips Temple Church, and she and her husband, Quentin Messer Sr., have 3 children, Erica, Quentin Freed, and Alexandria Sloan. And I want to add, just as another personal note, and 6 are filled with her family and friends. We spent our morning today working with young people, many of them who don't have that kind of support. And we all recognize the need of the sharing and giving forward. And it really warms my heart to see people come out to support you this evening. Myrick Harris. Dr. Harris received her PhD from Emory University, her master's from the Ohio State University, and a Bachelor of Art from Morris Brown College, where she was valedictorian. She's co-authored several African American history digital textbooks. When I received her nomination, see, this is how dynamic these people are. In 3 months' time, they have one job. 3 months later, they've moved on. When I received her nomination, I just found it in April, she was the interim executive director of UNCF Institute for Capacity Building. 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Dr. Myrick Harris where she shared that on July 2nd, she began her new position as the Margaret Mitchell Marsh Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences and Professor of African American Studies at Morehouse College. She is the first African American female to be named an academic dean at Morehouse. Almost 30 years, Dr. Myrick Harris has held a variety of faculty and administrative positions at both HBCUs and majority institutions. She served on the faculties of University of Georgia, University of Cincinnati, and Morris Brown. In addition, she's taught at Emory, Purdue, Clark Atlanta. She was a distinguished teaching and research fellow in the Interdisciplinary Center for the Study of Global Change at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. She was the founding director at Mount Morris Brown of a Minnesota Mellon Pipeline Program of International Studies, and then she became the national director of Global Issues Honors Consortium, which is a partnership between the University of Minnesota, Dillard University, and Tougaloo College. Her administrative experiences included her work in the mid-90s, where she was the co-founder of the African American Academy in Cincinnati, one of the first African-centered independent schools. It was pre-K through 7th grade, chartered by Ohio Department of Education. She was nominated by Dr. Sylvia Carey Butler, class of 2011. Class of 2012.
Dr. Ethel Peace Walker, who works at San Jose State University in California, and she has the theater, the arts, and radio, television, all of those under her control. And the traveling company, I believe it's an African-American traveling company with her husband. Dr. Ethel Peace Walker.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to honor our mayor, Edmund Jackson, who is here with us, and we are so very happy to have you here today. I'd like to say a special hello to our officers, including our planning chair, to all of the COG members, especially the newly inducted members. Welcome. And of course to Dr. Jordan, who is always special, and to our guests that are here. We are so very happy to have you here as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the African American monument. We gather tonight in this beautiful city of Savannah. This hotel sits close to the banks of the Savannah River, and one need only walk around this city, once inhabited by the Yamacraw Native Americans, and who welcomed General James Edward Oglethorpe to its settlement, to see the mystery and the wonderful history that Savannah has to offer. You know, by the end of the 18th century, Savannah had become a crown jewel of Georgia, as most of the Georgia natives in here know, as an agricultural, political, and social center of the South. Savannah was also one of the leading ports for buying and selling of slaves. Although there were periods when the slave trade was reduced, Savannah served as a major port from 1733 to 1858. That's a long time. The rich agricultural industry, the continuous economic growth, was fertile ground for the importation and the settling of West Africans. At one point in the 18th century, Africans were quarantined in a 9-story building, a lazzaretto, means in Italian a pest house, on Tybee Island, before they were brought to the streets and the banks of the Savannah port to be sold. It's interesting because on our way to Savannah State yesterday, we actually passed the signs that said Tybee Island, and I thought, this is the path that those slaves probably walked in order to get to that harbor down below where the monument is. Savannah's slave trade is often remembered for the largest sale of humans in the history of the United States. Something I didn't know. In 1859, 436 men, women, and children labeled as property of Pierce Butler was sold in mass at what is now called the Weeping Time. There is a marker, I understand, on Augusta Avenue near Dunn Street. Mayor shaking her head, which stands as a testament to this brutal act that separated families and caused horrific suffering. A Philadelphia socialite named Sidney George Fisher wrote of this particular event, the selling of 436 slaves. It is a dreadful affair, however, selling these hereditary Negroes. Yet it is done every day in the South. It is one among the many frightful consequences of slavery and contradicts our civilization, our Christianity, and our republicanism. Can such a system endure? Is it consistent with humanity and moral progress? These are difficult questions, and still more difficult is to say what can be done. The granddaughter of an African who experienced the slave experience, Abigail Jordan knew firsthand the effects of indignity and discrimination. She accompanied her mother who sought to vote and was turned away. For such an act, the mother was nearly killed. Jordan realized the value of education, graduating from Albany State University, Atlanta University, and ultimately receiving a doctorate from the University of Georgia. Abigail, and I take liberties by saying Abigail, is a woman of first, in case you did not know. She's the first director of the Reading Institute funded by the United States Department of Education. She's the first black female to serve as a forewoman on a grand jury in the state of Georgia, and I'm sure that room must have been exciting as they of that defendant. She was the first secretary-treasurer of the Savannah Hospital Authority. She was the first black female to serve as president of a Georgia chapter of the American Association of University Professors. She was the first to use the contingency management system in the United States, sponsored by the Central Midwestern Regional Education Laboratory Incorporated. She was the first and only black on the team that surveyed the aftermath of Watts in California. She was the first black to serve as a columnist for the Savannah News. That means it was not unusual that she would be the first to put forth the challenge of establishing a monument to African Americans in this city. It was in her legacy, in her DNA, and in her blood. And so in 1991, Dr. Jordan gave birth to us, the Consortium of Doctors, COD, an organization created to recognize African American women with doctorate degrees who have made significant achievements in their field. And over the past 21 years, COD has formed a network of women who meet annually to re-energize themselves and discuss strategies for addressing local problems. Women who work daily in their own communities across the country to enrich the quality of life for all children and adults. By 1997, Dr. Jordan had encouraged COD to pick up the mantle of her dream and contribute to the building of Savannah's first African American monument. The task was never easy. I think Mayor Jackson has mentioned some of the problems. If you have an opportunity, you can talk to Savannahans and you will know the journey was quite arduous and tedious, and that puts it mildly. On July 27, 2002, the city unveiled the statue in the plaza along the Savannah River, a very prominent spot. It stands today, a family of father, mother, children, chained at feet, and united in their survival for enslavement. At the base of the monument, poet Maya Angelou's words ring out. We were stolen and brought together from the African continent. Got on the slave ships together. We lay back to belly in the holes of the slave ship, in each other's excrement and urine together. Sometimes some die together, and our lifeless bodies thrown overboard together. Today we are standing together with faith and even some joy. As visitors pass the monument, it is obvious that there is reflection and sometimes debate. The statue reminds us of a period in our history that represents the depth of indignity and inhumanity. It reminds us of our need to capitalize on the weak and disenfranchised. It speaks to the very core of human greed and cruelty, and at the same time forces us to acknowledge sadness and helplessness. For many, especially African Americans, the statue represents a time to be forgotten and wiped out of our culture. We don't want to remember those days. But I want to remember this remarkable time in our history. I want to remember the millions of Africans who were captured, often by other Africans, held in slave pens, loaded on slave slave ships. I want to remember the hull of the ships that crossed the Middle Passage, where my ancestors suffered the cruelest and most inhumane conditions and torture. I want to remember the boatloads of Africans who were unloaded on Savannah and other port shores and marched to auction stations to be inspected and sold as chattel without regard to family ties. I want to remember the thousands of humans forced to work from sun-up to sundown in houses and fields, many underclothed and underfed. I want to remember the lash and other forms of torture suffered when the enslaved dared to learn to read or write, and the determination of those enslaved to make unmeasurable sacrifices to climb out of ignorance. I want to remember those who tried to escape to freedom, many captured and brutalized, but thousands who made it to the northern cities, including those in Canada, those who built new lives with roots in slavery. I want to remember the insurrections and uprisings by those who refused to endure the evil system and who found the taste of freedom greater than the threat of death. I want to remember the many freed through emancipation who were later subjected to Jim Crow laws and segregation and discrimination. I want to remember those ex-slaves who served as buffalo soldiers and stagecoach drivers and builders of all black towns. I want to remember the ex-slaves and children of ex-slaves who became artists and creators of art and literature that would bring a unique and definitive culture to a nation. I never want to forget the millions of enslaved Africans and the brutality they suffered, the creative, strong moments and methods they used to survive, the cultural memories they kept to keep our link to the African continent, and the religious faith to fight for future generations of their children. For if I forget, the rocks will cry. And I don't want no rocks to speak for me. To forget the history is to deny all that is strong and positive in African American existence. Angela says at the end of that piece, we are standing up together with faith and even some joy. The monument outside this hotel reminds us how far our ancestors have traveled and should bring joy to our lives. But the real question is, what are we doing to keep the legacy of the monument alive? A statue has little value as a standing object. It is simply mortar. Its true value lies in what it inspires viewers to do with their gifts. Dr. Abigail Jordan and the Consortium of Doctors hope that the statue will inspire all of us to live lives of service and commitment. What will future generations say about us? As I said earlier today, we are the children of those who chose to survive. And we owe a tremendous debt to that family who live on the monument.
Let's give her another round of applause. I told her as she was passing by, I got to give you a hug, sister, because ain't nobody gonna speak for me. All right, we want to pause now to do something that we should all do, and that is to show appreciation. And to also announce something that Dr. Jordan has originated and now is finding a home for in a very historic place. It is called the Trailblazers Living Memorial. And it was the first instance of her concept of a monument of some kind that was recognized as African American. However, there was a desire to move in a different direction, to focus on the family, but yet she still wanted to focus on people who were blazing trails, because even today, we still have to blaze trails. The very fact that we can talk about any of us being the first to do anything means we still have a lot of work to do. We all have to be pioneers, and we should make sure whenever a door is cracked, walk through it. Walk through it. And tell our young people, know when they see opportunity and seize it. Never let it go to somebody else. So now I would like to call to the front Ms. Loretta Taylor from the Museum Association of the First African Baptist Church. In your souvenir book, if you will look toward the back, you will find a section on this accomplishment of Dr. Jordan. Well, really, it's on page 10, not toward the back, page 10. It says the Trailblazers Living Memorial from Conception to Reality. And it is a living memorial that she had in mind that names could be added to from time to time to identify key persons of note in the African American community who were making contributions that were noteworthy and creating African American history and American history for all of us to enjoy the fruits of and to know about. We have found a home for this living memorial at the First African Baptist Church here in Savannah, a very historic church, and we feel that it is a good home because of the meaning of this church and what it symbolizes in this country, that slaves, no matter what they were going through, still sought a way to worship and to give honor to God. And so they built that church, and it has gone through many changes until we have what we have today. But we feel that Dr. Jordan's concept is in many ways like those slaves that built that church. It is opening a new door so that we can evolve into the newness of life that God has promised us. So we want to thank the First African Baptist Church for accepting this memorial, and we know that they will take good care of it and will be good stewards of it, and that they will have it to do what it was conceptualized to do. Their minister, Reverend Thurman Tillman, was very instrumental in helping to get the African American Family Monument down here on the riverfront, and continued with it from beginning until its completion. And if you will look in the book at the message from the co-director, George Trudy, you will find a statement about him and his role And you will also find thanks to other persons in the Savannah community for the African American Family Monument and now for the Trailblazers Memorial. So we want to pass on. We never want anyone to do for us without our saying thank you to them. And so we want to pass this on, since Reverend Tillman has helped the world to come to our doorsteps through the tourists who have come to see the monument, and they come there every day. We are told by our mayor that they come there by the thousands. So we are saying through this piece, which is a globe of the world, thank you for bringing the world to Savannah to know who African Americans are and their ancestors. And it reads, Reverend Thurman Tillman from Consortium of Doctors, 2012.
On behalf of my pastor, Reverend Thurman Neal Tillman, the officers and members of First African Baptist Church, I say thank you to the Consortium of Doctors, Dr. Jordan, and all of the doctors represented here. Thank you on behalf of our church family. I also would like to just say congratulations to all of the honorees and inductees this evening. And I must say, we definitely had a history lesson this evening.
Amen.
And now I want to do something that's not on the program, but it should be. However, even though it's not, it doesn't mean that we forgot it. Because as I was mentioning, we never want to forget to show appreciation and to say thank you to those who have helped us along the way and have given service in order to encourage them to continue doing so, and to say to them, we see what you're doing and we like it. So I want to call forward Dr. Barbara Cannon, our outgoing director of the Consortium of Doctors. This plaque says the Consortium of Doctors, LTD, presented to Dr. Barbara E. M. Cannon, COD Director, 2008 to 2012, an appreciation for service, July 28, 2012.
Asking Attorney Battle Thomas to come and help me here because Dr. Carolyn Baldwin Tucker had a loss in her family and could not be here, but did tremendous work helping us solidify and refine our bylaws, and that we adopted here at our meeting. Attorney Battle Thomas.
At this time, we're going to just have the current members, since you've met the inductees previously, stand, and I'll introduce them by name, who are present tonight. Dr. Abigail Jordan, our founder, who you'll be hearing from in just a few minutes. Please stand, Dr. Jordan. Dr. Cannon, our director. Dr. Harriet Bias-Insignares, the co-director. And Dr. Barbara Reed, our treasurer. Also present this evening are Dr. Sylvia Carey Butler from the class of 2011, Dr. Lyra Gillette from the class of 1993, Dr. Jacqueline Green from the class of 2010, Dr. Fanny Hicklin from the class of 2010. I was very privileged to be inducted in the class of 1997, and Dr. Ethel Pitts-Walker from the class of 93. And then we'll have our inductees stand, and you will see the people who attended the conference this weekend. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Ms. Evelyn Brown to come and join us here on the podium. When we made the rededication of the monument yesterday, we were very pleased that the mayor was available to come and help give a tribute to this monument and to help us celebrate 10 years since the placement there on the Savannah River. And what I'd like to bring to your attention is this Evelyn Brown from St. Philip AME Church. She is a solid rock, and she is also a tender person, compassionate human being, considerate. She has a giving heart, and according to Dr. Abigail Jordan, she is one that we can rely on. And I found that to be true, Dr. Jordan. And as a result of what you did, and your patience and perseverance, I'd like to give you a tribute that is a tribute of appreciation and thanks from the Consortium of Doctors to Ms. Evelyn Brown for supporting the Consortium of Doctors LLC during our 21st annual meeting and 10th anniversary rededication of the first African American family monument in America on the historic Savannah riverfront. Dr. Abigail Jordan, founder, Dr. Barbara E. Cannon, director, Dr. Harriet Bias-Insignares, co-director, Dr. Robert Embry, treasurer, and attorney Carolyn Vallow Thomas, planning committee chair for this period, July 26th through the 29th, 2012. This has been one of the most fantastic meetings we've had. And Dr. Evelyn Brown, thank you for what you helped us with. Thank you. Thank you.
As Governor Powell would say, surprise, surprise. I am indeed honored to be, for you to recognize me. And this, I am really, really speechless, but like I told Dr. Cannon, that I'm like the songwriter that says, if I can help someone while I travel this way, then my life, my living will not be in vain. So I say congratulations to Dr. Cannon and all you, Consortium of Doctors, on your 21st anniversary. And it is my wish that God will take you even to another level. May God bless you all. Thank you.
That was Governor Powell that said, surprise, surprise, surprise. At this point, we will be blessed with wonderful remarks, I'm sure, from Dr. Abigail Jordan. Thank you. I'd like everybody to see her come up with this beautiful hat. This will be our closing remarks.
I want to thank all of you for being here. This is not a part of the program that I enjoy. I like to do things and hear about them. And had I heard about some of the things that were to be said tonight, I would not have been here. I had hoped that Mr. Clifton Jones would have been here. Mr. Jones fought for the monument for years in Savannah alone. Now I know Jackson don't like that.
No,
but that
you're
is
right.
true.
You're right.
He fought alone with the support from the Consortium of Doctors or anybody else that would come by and help us. And I had hoped that Mr. Jones would be here tonight. Two or three little things up. You've had such a history, I'm ashamed to say, but I know. It started out, I used to walk the river path out there before they had all this business. What they had then was from the times of slavery, they died. And I started walking nothing down there on the river. Down on the eastern end was some kind of shop down there, but in between was nothing. You remember at the back of the city hall and some other buildings, but there was nothing. I enjoy walking, looking at the water, and the path worried me. And I made it in my own mind that a path from where we used to get on a boat to go down the river, that was the path, no doubt, that they brought my ancestors through. And I would look at it until it bothered me. The plaque that I have at my house now was the thing that I was going to sneak. I thought, yeah, tell the city, give me permission. And I thought it was easy to go there. He said, okay, you can put it there. And the plaque that's in my garage now, I had hoped that one day I could get down and ease it on that path. Isn't it peculiar how you start with a little thing and it just blow up on you? And you get to the place where you cannot get out. There you are. And so that was the thing. The plaque is under my garage now. I paid over $10,000 for it. What anything you know, marble is costly, you still have nothing. If you don't believe it, try to fix some of these cemetery plots. But anyway, that was the reason for it. And so I placed these names on there. I didn't put my name on there. I wanted other people to be known for what they had done. I can just see some of those people now that was working in Savannah when I came here. And so I know you're going to go on, so I'm going to talk a little it's so much that we can do, you know, but I can't do anymore. I'm not going to do anymore. My family fell out with me spending my money trying to do for our folk. And you know, I should say, but we fight ourselves. If you don't want to work with us and help us, just shut up. So much we can do, and sometimes I just turn on my television at all because that's different things. Did you know I challenged the prices, right? I believe it, asked the Atlanta Constitution. I said, I don't see any black marks on that. So somebody picked it up and wrote an article in the paper, and within 10 days we had us a black mark. It's so many things, it's so much that should be done, and I'm so small. And I said, I wish people would take a move. But yet we can see different styles and things we can follow, but we won't do anything to try to open doors for our people. And another thing that started, like writing for the newspaper. I knew first they would replace me, but the person would have to be a journalist. So I played around until finally we sent a girl from Savannah and tried to think of the name because I know some of you know. But anyway, she graduated in journalism in New York University. And she was coming back home. So they had me. I called the newspaper and I said, we need us a black writer, regular writer from the newspaper. And I knew what the answer would be. We can't find anybody. I have somebody. I'm not quick thinking. I was caught off guard. They said, why don't you do it? I would write it. But I had to do it because they asked me, why don't you do it? I didn't want to write it. But that was the reason I started. Don't ever mention and there's so many things right here in Savannah that you don't know about. In Savannah, you had the first black person to be sent to New York to what's that big bombing company? It's a lot. It's one of the largest bonding countries companies in the world, we didn't have all these emails and things like that. And I have to give credit to Jesse DeLoach's husband, Robert DeLoach. Something was set up, and I didn't know about it. And I was sitting there at a meeting table for the first hospital. And so they said they needed a secretary for the organization. And this fellow, I think he was a Latino or something, and he said, Miss Jordan, secretary meant writing. I know I didn't want to write. So when he said that, Jesse DeLoach's husband kicked me under the table to shut my mouth. and I'm wondering, well, anyway, this little woman was sent to New York to sign at that time more, the highest bond than any other black female in the United States. And that's in Canada Hospital that you see now. They have everybody's name on the wall, but they don't have a black person. Sign the bond for the hospital. I wasn't looking for that, but I wanted it to be known we black folks could sign bonds. Not just this one woman, but anyway, that's not there. I have so much more to say. I didn't know all this would be done today. I know I wouldn't have been. But anyway, I appreciate your thinking about me, but I was not doing anything for you to give me credit. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Dr. Jordan, and before you leave, I'd like our new officers to please stand for the next two-year term, and we'd like our officers to stand. Our director is Attorney Carolyn Battle Thomas. The co-director is Dr. Jacqueline Green. Our treasurer is Dr. Barbara M. Reed. The secretary is Dr. Regina Vincent Clark. And the sister is in her honor because she will not be able to, but her sister has been taking minutes this whole time for her sister, who will be the secretary. And then our next officer is historian. Would you please stand? That was a new officer this year, historian. Dr. Fanny Hicklin, who is, we couldn't have had a better person for that. We really honored your wisdom. And then our next officer was the archivist, Dr. Myers Harris. And then the parliamentarian, I'm not sure, it may have to be an appointed position at this time. Oh, we do have one. Ethel Pitts Walker. They didn't have a better, thank you, parliamentarian. Any other officers? Would you all stand, officers, please, one all together, please? So we will get to It's so wonderful to have new officers. Thank you so much. And have a pleasant evening and a wonderful new year and the years to come. Yes.
Announce that the CAD members and inductees go right to the back and get a group picture.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask Attorney Gallo Thomas to come and give you further instructions.
We want a picture of the COD members and the inductees. But we are not going to wait around, so anybody who wants to be in the picture, please go to the back of the room and we're going to get a picture of whoever goes to the back of the room.